So, what is that session about? Well, I named it Developer Under Influence because I couldn't pass on the joke, because the idea is, so I'm involved in two communities usually. The Java user group, for which I'm not relevant since I've not been coding professionally for like a while, and the Agile community. And while I was still having beer, I'm from Paris. While I was still having beer with my friends from the Java user group, I realized that many of them, I barely have anything to say relevant about tech, right? I'm trying to keep up to date, but I'm not on the edge. But they had questions for me, and usually it appears at the end of the night when everybody's away. And they had questions that they seem to be a bit ashamed to ask, because there's stuff that starts usually like, you're that kind of coach something, I want to ask you something, and they seem to be very ashamed about that. And I realized they ask questions about non-tech stuff, because we're techies, right? We're techies. Who's a techie here? All right, I know who I'm talking to. When we meet, what do we talk about? The latest framework, React.js versus native apps, that kind of stuff. But to me, the great job we do, I call it engineering, we're engineers, and a huge part of that, a consistent part of that is also how do we behave? How do we collaborate? And I realize we don't talk about that when we meet at drinks or coffee. And these friends were almost ashamed to talk about it. I had one talking to me like, hey, I'm so pissed in my project. I don't know why it's just, could you give me what do you think about? And then the person talks about the situation. I have even one guy telling me, hey, I look very confident like that, but I want your opinion on my behavior. I think I'm an asshole. And you have that kind of question. So my primary goal to have that kind of session is to open the door to talk about behavioral stuff. I mean, what is non-technical about our technical job, and to say it's okay to talk about it. So actually, if you want to get out of this room right now, but if you meet next time you got a coffee with another tech guy and you're free to talk about it, I'm happy. My primary goal is reached. We're all here. It seems you also have questions that are non-technical about your technical job. And if we just get okay to talk about it, honestly, my job's done. So I'm already happy. Like next time you meet someone, are you going to ask something like, hey, I don't know how to handle that guy in my project, and sometimes I think I'm rude. What do you guys think? That would be a great discussion, but we don't have them. So my purpose today is to have that kind of discussion. Moving on. So, the one thing I realized when you talk about people, tech guys, at the beer or at the end, you have two types. One type is sort of constantly ranting about what is wrong about the project, the architecture, the other co-workers, and why nobody's listened to me ever. Well, maybe I come from France, so cynicism and ranting is sort of overrepresented, but I feel that too here. When you're a developer in a regular organization, you the bottom of the organization, right? You don't have much influence per se. So, and at the same time, you saw some guys, they seem to have their way. Every time you see them from meetup to meetup, and over years, and I don't know, people talk well about them, but first, they seem always interested in their project, and it sort of goes all right. And it comes to my mind like, wait, is there a damn mystery about that? Is that because some are good, some are not, or what is that? And it boiled down to the question the people are asking me the most, the non-technical questions were how to be influent, actually. So I went to developers that when considered super influent, that kind of bright guys, and I just interviewed them like, just trying to figure out how do you do that? So, and I was illuminated by most of the answers. So what I'm doing here, I'm rehearsing most of what I collected from them, right? So, what's being influent? Let's get down to a simple use case. there is something you want to change that is on your project, your job, that is not under your direct control or authority. Okay? You want that to change, but it's around you or not your stuff. Clear enough? You can relate to something like that. The project management, the architecture, the framework you're using, etc. The coding styles. So, actually, when I mash down all the answers, it comes down to, we can break down the question of being influent into 4. 1, do I have anything relevant to say? Like, should I open my mouth in the first place? 2, do I know how to confront my opinion with others? The art of debating. 3, do I know when, where, and to whom I should actually speak up? And the one I didn't see coming, when I spoke with these people, it took me a while to figure it out. I would name it like, why am I here in the first place? What's my motivation in that job? So going forward, do I have anything to say? So I asked these guys, what do you think, what do you mean like relevant? Because when I say like, first, I don't know if I'm influent, but basically, first, start to say something that's useful and meaningful, right? A good idea. All right, how do you know it's good? And I know that the more senior one, very adamant, like, is that in the project interest? Simple. Is that in the project interest? If yes, then yes, that's something that should be changed. Then how do you know that it's relevant? Well, they say you must have a logical reasoning. So in case you kind of lost in all these chain of command and thing, here's what an engineer does. You start with facts. You find some analysis, logical consequences, reasoning, and at the end you find an outcome for the project, a positive one. And that's it. So I was sort of slapped to feel like, oh yeah, by the way, I remember now, we use logic here. So that logical reasoning is, yeah, okay, you got that. So hey, I think we should use a new database, whatever, because I see how we suck on performance, and that's, I think we could scale better when new clients are coming up, and okay, that's the idea. Now, there's so many things we can think about, right? We're not perfect. So what, I thought of like, yeah, what if you can't find that reasoning? Like sometimes you just start with an idea, what do you do? And to my surprise, the answer was, that means it's not the interest on the project. If I can't have a reasoning for that, probably that means I just want to have fun with that new framework. And so I know I don't have something relevant to say. I was kind of surprised to see these people that you see in meetups and all, kind of very proud and confident, and they're very disciplined to shutting their own mouths and analyzing whether they're relevant or not. And I find it very, very genuine, very showing a lot of integrity. So basically, they say, it's just, I know how I'm going to have fun, so I'm going to do a project on my own and have fun with that new, or investigate in that new framework I want to try, because I can't find a reason for the project. So I just asked, all right, so far, you're not telling me you're influent. You start with like, you got good ideas, right? But, I mean, the idea has to be good. All right, but I'll point on one, actually. I want to say that. People tell you, I mean, people sees you as somebody who actually has more influence than others. How come? And the answer was that, actually, most of the time I'm right. Come on, Sherlock, just, you can't brag like that, but I'm going to do that. And he goes, oh, no, don't think I'm bragging. No, I'm not talented at all. I'm just old and experienced. And I heard that sentence. I mean, these guys, mostly they had between 15 and 25 years of experience as developers, technical leaders, you know. And that was the same answer all the time. Is I wasn't skilled at the beginning. I know people better than me, more talented. That guy is so fast. It pisses me off every time I see him coding. I feel like a kid. But so I'm not that guy. But consistently over my years, I kept investigating. I kept clear about the reasoning. I kept trying to find out why is it working, why is it not, etc. Being very intransigent, And so, yeah, okay, you see me 15 years later, I know stuff, and usually I'm right just because I saw more stuff. And over the years, I analyzed it properly. So it was not how to be skilled or good, it's just how to become good. Basically what comes up, and we're here, experience, eat talent for breakfast. Like, you're 23, I remember I was 23 out of engineering school. I thought I could beat anyone. I will beat the world because, I was good at coding at school. And then I show up at work and I saw that guy. He's like, what, 28, 29 at the time. So he has 6 years of experience. He's coding on a French keyboard, but he doesn't like the layout. So he's coding on QWERTY, like it's a QWERTY keyboard, except it's RZT. So he doesn't look at the keyboard. And he's using Emacs. So I started in 99, right? So for those who weren't there, it's barely a graphic interface. Mostly you use commands and macro that requires easily 4 combination. Meta, Alt, Control, M, then Control, Z, then da. And that guy is using that without looking at the keyboard so fast. His fingers are flying on the keyboard, and you don't understand the relation with what's going on the screen and what's going on in there. But basically, it feels like he's just... And you're here out of school, and you're like, yeah, okay. Okay, so basically you're just a beginner to that kind of guy who's been working for 6 years consistently with passion, doing that job for a living. So that's all they tell me. You can be as good as that, but if you come a bit, you also know some people talented out of school, but if they get sloppy or too proud of themselves or don't work out, sometimes they just become crazy coders that have more fun, that brings more fun to the party, yes, for sure, but at the same time, their propositions are not relevant or not competitive. So that's what they tell me. So that's for reassuring every one of you. Nobody cares how these people don't care about how talented you are. They think actually that's how much you work on it. Obvious, but I heard that everywhere, so I thought it was worth mentioning. They work on personal projects. That's how they all have hobbies all the time. I don't advocate for overwork, but come on, everybody I know, every single person I know, they have some personal projects on the side to experiment more. And so if you don't have one, if it's been a while, I guess that's the only recipe I heard. In transitions, you heard about it. So their relation with learning and experience was kind of, honestly, that was very inspiring to me to remember what disciplined thinking means. And if you're a junior, you should not get sloppy like that. If you're a junior, and you ask yourself where to start, actually, because okay, we know you know nothing. Where to start? Quick advice that you see somewhere. Quick recommendation I found. Better be specialized first. Instead of spreading your curiosity everywhere. I make it quick. That's this amazing book that honestly influenced my life a lot, The Art of Learning, by a guy who's both a junior world champion in chess and champion in martial arts, world champion. So he knows a thing or two, and he wrote that book, which is amazing, and a joy to read, by the way. But there's one thing you find is, you go deeper in learning, you will learn more general things. And that will allow you to learn better the other things around. If you keep on the surface of so many things, you don't get to learn the deep stuff. So, as a beginner, the kind of recommendation I found was always, and that's the story of these people I met, usually they started to be very, very, very deeply good at one thing, and over the years, okay, they spread on. Okay? So basically, these guys say, I'm just good, I just have a lot of good ideas and good proposition, and I'm very disciplined at how they work. Let me just, okay. So, now comes the question for all nerds of us. How do you confront your opinions with others? Do you relate to that? Avoiding the hated arguments, while at the same time, confrontation is a positive thing, right? This is how you get further. One idea, a contradictory idea, that means there's something better to learn about it. I was sure of something, a new fact comes to disturb that, there's learning. So progress comes from confrontation. So that's a good thing. So how you do that in a healthy way? First one, speak your mind. One was a personal learning, just be straightforward. I'm a guy who want to comply. I have a bias to say yes to people. And I know in my consulting career, something changed the moment I realized that I wasn't giving the client my just best opinion. I was thinking like, is that okay if I say that? I know that's controversial. Now with bargaining in my head, instead of just, okay, start with what you think. Speak your mind. That's how you gain respect and integrity. And I know that's the kind of thing that gets eroded over the years if you don't train it. So just remember, is that really your best idea? And if not, just say it. Sometimes it's just like, hey, I don't understand. I see what you're proposing. I don't understand. Can somebody explain? Just speak your mind. Quick one. Then for healthy debate, so there's so many things on this topic. I try to compress it, right? Basically, talk about the code. Never talk about the person. And it came out, like, even if you feel like blowing off steam or you're pissed, honestly, at some point, it's okay to say, this code is a bloody mess. What is usually will block any further conversation is, your code is a bloody mess. Or, you're ashamed to that team. Or, I don't understand your choices. Basically, instead of saying, you suck, you say, this code sucks. In the bluntest way, that would be sort of okay. All right, it's not exactly a healthy thing to say. But still, the other person can do something with it. It's about the code. Now, one great thing I learned earlier, you want to refer to, from Weinberg, who's sort of the grandfather of everything consulting and in software, the chances of solving a problem decline the closer you get to finding out who was responsible for the problem. And it's the kind of thing I've been repeating, hearing all my career, and so I like how it's said. It's just, if you're looking for somebody guilty, basically you won't find a solution. You will just find what you want, somebody guilty. But that won't give you a solution. That will just give you someone to blame. And it's not only a management thing, it's just a collaboration thing. It takes, honestly, it's not easy. It's not natural. So it takes repetition and discipline. But that's why, find yourself a mantra if that one doesn't suit you, but just get back at this. Never talk about the people. Basic. Like non-violent communication boiled to one, never talk about the people. Actually, one great thing I heard, just be on your own story. Be sort of self-centered when you talk. I saw that, I think that, I see the code, I don't think it's working. So it's either about the code or about you, never about the other people. Moving forward. So you had that discussion. You talk about the code, you talk about confrontation, and you review what are the facts, what's the analysis, what's the outcome for the project. Now, the big question is, when you look at these movies and all the, because geek are the new chic, and you have all this thing about, are they stubborn or are they smart? So the question is, when do you hold your position? And the answer can be very simple for all these people is, if you do not have any new thing in the reasoning, you don't change your opinion. If there is no discovery of a new fact or observation, if there is no discovery of another analysis, if there is no discovery of an outcome, you don't have to change your mind. Even if everybody disagrees with you, you don't see something new. You can ask for it, of course, but you don't see something new, you don't have to change your mind just to conform. And that's one thing. So I'm super sensitive to peer pressure. The question I'm asking you, how do you feel you're sensitive to peer pressure? Some people brag about it, some people do not. If you've been into, for example, inside a project who practice poker planning or that kind of quick estimate in Agile, you ask quickly, what do we think about that new user story? And then you got the tech lead, 10 years of experience, something who said like, yeah, I think it's easy. And the young guy who was ready to say, I think it's complicated. You know, the junior or the trainee. Ever saw the guy say, I think it's complicated? No, but you're right. It's, I'm probably have it wrong. It must be easy. The junior is wrong. The junior shouldn't change. I didn't hear a fact. I didn't hear an analysis. There's no outcome. Let's talk about it. So if you're a younger experience, once again, you do not have a reason to change your mind. Don't change your mind. That doesn't mean not engaging conversation, of course, but this is all. And if you're a senior, you should see that coming. If people are aligning to you without even discussing it, you're killing debate. And now if you think you're not, my point is, you know this famous question of the estimates, when is the project going to be delivered? And you make your analysis and it comes like it's going to be in 15 weeks, except in 12 weeks, your boss has promised the client something. So you made your best guess, because it's only prediction, right? And the boss comes and says, so you said 15 weeks, right? Are you sure? Because, I mean, that's going to be a lot of trouble, like we told the client and all. So, I mean, don't you want to calculate again? You had that? Somebody went through that situation? I totally went through that situation. Yeah, right? It's a classic. Well, here's the thing. If we're engineers, what's our job? Whether it's rainy or sunny, an engineer doesn't change its position for no reason. That's it. So we're not supposed to change. Our credibility at work is there. Now, how you do that, because you struggle with peer pressure, the trick usually I use, sometimes I just open up. I remember a client asking me like a boss, 1 time, 2 times, 3 times the same thing. I said, look, I have a bias for compliance. If you ask a long time enough, I will tell you yes. Now, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? And people are smart because usually they say, yeah, okay, no. So you can just tell your boss, look, do you want me to tell you what you want to hear? Or, because I already gave you an answer. And usually people get it. Okay, they don't hire you to tell you what they want to hear. They hire you for your dang expertise that we so hard to build. And that was kind of refreshing for me to hear that kind of message, right? If nothing changes, an engineer doesn't change its position, its reasoning. You say the same thing no matter the context. You're supposed to say the same thing. That's it. Sometimes, you know, your sales guys are like, shh, 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 shh. All right, you can be silent, but don't compromise your integrity by saying something you don't mean. Because that was your job. Now, why are we wrong? So many reasons. So I just passing by. There's so many literature about the topic, right? So why are we wrong? You know the expertise bias. For those who don't know it. That means when you train into a subject, you are biased to see everything from that angle to have this problem. Simply put, if you have a performance problem, you have a database specialist, you have, I don't know, the JavaScript front-end specialist, and you got the middleware specialist. Obviously, the database guys will tell you that I saw problems on the database, probably our performance lacks from the database. And you're not, no, I think it's just GS. No, I think it's just, see, that's called expertise bias. It's very natural. So we have that. So that's a joke that says like the guy looking for his keys at night, car keys, under a lamppost. Somebody, hey, you're looking for your car keys? Yeah. You lost them here? No. Well, what are you looking for here? Well, there's light. That's the expertise bias. You get light on the spot, and you look at that. And honestly, you can catch yourself doing this. So one of the reasons with the best intent in the world, you tend to spin at not being that rational. Engagement bias is you started to do something, your mind want to rationalize that you did it for a good reason and want you to continue. Basically, as per your studies, you can Google engagement bias, but you start to help someone, you will keep helping that person. For example, you start to do a distance for a shop because you're looking for something to buy. The shop doesn't have what you stick for, but you're already engaged, and there's another shop more kilometers away. So then you will go for that one. But in the first place, if I told you, you have 20 kilometers to do to get what you want, you would have said, no way, I don't spend that time. But you started, you know? So once you started, you want to keep going with that. It's a natural bias. I won't dig further in that. That's one of the biases. Of course, the social one, I mentioned, the group thinking. Everybody thinks the same, so why not you? Your boss asks you something, and you know your job sort of depends on it. So, are you sure? Okay, we had so many biases, but what that means basically is we are not that smart. So sometimes we're wrong. And the question to know how good you are at being wrong, one of these guys told me is, if a fact comes that contradicts what you were thinking, how long does it take you to spin? Change your mind. How long does it take you? That's the question. And that's really how you can measure. Sometimes, you know, for some contradiction, it will take you 48 hours thinking. A guy told me, one of these guys who pretend to be trained, on a Friday, he had a heated debate on a topic, and Monday morning wrote an email, okay, I was a moron, you guys are right, of course. Let's do what you guys think. Because emotion gets us there, right? So how to train yourself? Basic ones that I heard from Monday. Learn new things often. Be a beginner again. Be terrible at something again. Have bad ideas by just getting out of your comfort zone. So I heard that a lot. But the best of the best trick I heard was that guy. So train your younger coworkers to contradict what you say. That guy was a technical leader, and he thought the new ones, he told me, the new ones, I think they are just, they're not challenging what I say, and we're losing, that's not training them, that's not good. So every day, their assignment is to look at his code in his commit and find 2 things that are wrong or could have been done better. Junior assignment, find senior's mistake. At the beginning, I thought it was a great training for the juniors, but I realized it's a training for himself. That guy who has accumulated experience and some reputation in the place, he's just trained to be contradicted by juniors twice a day. So twice a day, he wants to find himself wrong. I never heard something about so simple as that. So he's ready to hear a junior opinion and value it twice a day. That's my best trick. If you can have that when you become a senior, awesome. Now, what to do when positions are blocked? Because we're only so many smart, right? So sometimes I have a reasoning, you have your own, but nothing's perfect, right? And you can't find a way to get there. You can say, hey, try to convince me I'm wrong. You can go on the other one's shoes and try to understand their point of view, but sometimes just stuck. Usually what you hear from that is you go with the passion, you respect the intuition at some point, and say, all right. Probably, I don't know, I can't prove you wrong, but you can prove me wrong. But you seem very into it, just, okay, let's try it together. Or go try it. You can hear that from the most stubborn man in the world, which was Steve Jobs. He used to do that. If you stand enough to him, he just like, okay, I can't get it, but it seems you get it. So let's just try, because we can't debate forever. More references on that topic. Google everything you want on assertive communication. Stay in your own story. I said it. Just talk about yourself and the code. If there's a discomfort, be on yourself. Seek to understand before being understood is one of the most amazing things. In that other I love this kind of book because there's so few advices, so well written. But you will find seek to understand before being understood. I don't get there. You could do a seminar about it. One quick trick, work your awareness. That sort of helps to understand what's your position. But basically, how you do that, you know this personality test. I don't know if anybody heard about MBTI or did one already. It's a couple, and you got some color stuff, and you got, honestly, bottom line is just pick one. We sort of don't care. Just pick one, because what you will have out of that, a reflection on yourself, but it's not about what the test says, it's about what's going on here. And the best message I see on all this thing is, people are not like you. They don't think like you. You don't think like them. And if you understand that, usually, you dispel 80% of the conflict. You just realize, and you value other people's approach. You start to realize that you are biased in a way, and they are biased in another way, but together, you may be the best thinking team. So, timing how much you have.
We can try 20 minutes.
Still 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Awesome. I thought your 30 minutes were like you only have 15 left. Okay, good. So when to open your mouth. So now, You will develop the way to have better ideas over time, great reasoning, so you will keep an engineer mind. It's about the fact. But, okay, you won't change that thing. That does not on your control. So when and who should you talk to? Parenthesis. Sometimes it's just that you doubt you should be the one talking about it because how good am I, right? And there's one simple thing. Ask your coworkers. Hey guys, I saw that new framework and all, but I'm not sure, like, I mean, what do I know, right? Do you think I should talk about it? Do you think I should talk about it to the boss? Do you think, like, and you will hear usually. They will say you yes or provide help. So it's a quick way, because not everybody, I mean, you can even be proud about yourself for the wrong reason, or you cannot see your virtues and your value. But maybe they do. That's a quick one to just, if you don't have the confidence, reach out to them. Second tip. So what do we say so far, right? So in order to be influent, you need to have expertise, you need to have integrity, you need to master assertivity, you need to have a certain form of sociability. Yeah, that's like, who the hell has that, right? So that's too much for one person. And the story I heard about the most nerdy of these great developers are find a sidekick. Most of the time they pair, for example, the most nerdy, they find a guy who's more like, has a reputation of being the social guy or the salesman of the team. Like that kind of person who can easily change what they're saying if it pleases more. But they also understand more social skills than you do. And usually they just pair up, hey, I just go like, hey, I saw the database and I think it really sucks. But the point is I'm not sure, do you want to help me raise the topic to the boss? Because I don't exactly know how to handle that. And usually the guys say, yeah, all right. And they go. And sometimes they end up talking to the boss. But the point is, first, there's the social guy starting, but when the discussion gets technical, they turn to the nerd, and then you have a sort of a scene out of House MD, where the guy, yeah, it's because of this. Okay. And real discussion engage. So basically, you can pair up to be influent, which I would call every Batman needs a Robin. It's okay. So find your Robin. Or maybe the other one is Batman, and you're just Robin. But who cares? Okay. So get a sidekick is also a good way. If you can't figure out when and how to talk to people, there are people who excel at that and probably they're in your team. So go with them. Now, the tricky one. So how to talk to the boss, and why do we say that? Should you talk to the boss, actually? The one thing is, what's the point of talking to people who, like you, don't have the power to change anything? And I know I've been one of these developers ranting around, ranting with the team. I've even been a coach trying to the team. And yeah, but the choice not there, so why the heck? That's not going to help. That's only one thing you have. Find one. You should find, let's say, a sponsor for your proposition. So find out who has the power to actually make a decision about it. Okay. You have to start to learn a bit about organization and ask questions. Use your social Robin, your sidekick. So, first, know who to talk to, and honestly save your energy. You're going to get frustrated if you keep trying to convince people who basically can't do anything for you, and they are your co-workers. Just like you, they are your teammates. They would be happy, but they can't. And you're going to spend energy, personal energy, on nothing. So, first part, find a sponsor. Second, from all the stories I heard, I never heard the story of the meeting with the boss who has been planned. It's all about informal access. Meeting, knocking at the door. Hey, I wanted to share an idea with you about the project. Okay, let's go. Or meeting at the cafeteria or something like that. And how you start if you meet this kind of person called boss, manager, directors. So, quick trick, start by the conclusion. I know you're a great scientist. You start by the fact, the analysis, and the outcome. Well, they don't have time for that. Their job is to make decisions. So, start by the end. I think if we don't change the database, we are going to crash in 3 months when I see how many new users we get. And then you add, do you want me to develop? Sometimes it's just enough, sometimes, yeah. Okay, and when you develop, layers by layers, some say a rule of 3, like give 3 arguments. Don't get deep if that person doesn't ask. Eventually come with options, because remember, they don't have much time for you. You're one of the many things they have to handle. Their job is to be sure the train are on time, and they're going to take decisions. So what do you think we should do? Well, there's this framework. We should try it out, because probably it's good. And that's it. So reach out the right person, informal access, and start by the conclusion. Speaking of informal access, so there's a quick trick I have, but I'm not the only one. How you informally meet someone, if you say it's a coincidence, what you provoke coincidence. So for example, why don't you take your laptop to work at the nearby cafeteria where you know that guy or that woman is going to take coffee regularly. And then, oh, coincidence. Hey, yeah, I wanted to fresh air, yeah. Hey, can I talk to you a minute about? That's it. And so, yeah, I did that. That means sometimes the best thing to do, instead of talking to people that can't do anything for me, I spend half a day in the cafeteria pretending to have an occupation or a reason to be here with whatever I have to do, and then you meet. And if you're going to go further, you can also ask the assistant. Hey, I just wanted to have a word with him. Like, is he available or something? The assistants are, the most powerful person in an organization. They're lovely. They know everything. They can help you. Look, he's in between meetings there and there. So maybe you can just, if it's just for 30 seconds, you can meet in between meetings. And not only can be a coincidence, or even better, you can be invited to cross that person in between meetings. But by the way, so informal, but it's okay to be prepared. The formal thing, I never heard about it. The committee about your proposal, hey, come on. That means your proposal is already getting traction, but that's not where you are, right? You just want to start to speak about it. One thing to never ever do, maybe you saw in movies that sort of thing like the person is completely outranked and against everyone's advice, write a fantastic report or a great new piece of software. And right when that person is about to just be kicked out of the company is something, the report ends up in the boss's desk. Sometimes it's a whole plot, and the boss is like, oh my God, who wrote that? Is it true? We should change everything. Yeah, okay, it never happened. Or I never heard about it, ever. You don't surprise people into being convinced. That never worked. Even your coworkers, you code your stuff on your side, and then voila! No, never worked. I actually heard some of these guys who were technical leaders, 10 years more than the guys in the team, and just show, okay, so I thought we should try that new, well, it was the era where everybody was finally getting out of Oracle, so whatever, this new Redis database or something. And I did a prototype, and here how it's work, and I think it should be good because and see we can just switch and all. And so it was like, thank you for the presentation, very, very educating. Yeah, good. Okay, back to work. And I realized, no, you got to get the people with your thinking. So you got to start with them with the problem, the analysis and all. So he redid it 1 week later, and again, remember, he was supposed to have sort of a form of authority on them. So he got back at it, went through the whole notion, even if it was symbolic, because honestly, he doesn't have much contradiction, but he can say, hey, you see the problem we have? You see the statistics on or the measures on the performance? You see how we could do that? What do you think we could do? Okay, I thought about a couple of options. What do you think about these options? All right, and then they agreed for an experiment. And then they agreed to try and be convinced. And then, okay, then actually it works pretty well, and swiftly they switched and all. And I heard that a lot. You will hear that. I wish I had put the responsibility here. So basically my point is never go underground. The underground rebel story is a complete lie if you can see it in movies. Get the others in a reflection. Eventually how you do, quite simply sometimes it's just ask for permission. Hey, may I raise a counterpoint? I see we're all in there, but I had that, and then you say it. Sometimes you can even say, okay, may I kill the show? May I be blunt? Or, hey, I'd like to try that. What do you think? One point about may I be blunt, because I read that. So you have so many things that go toward that same advice in hostage negotiation. If you want to Google Never Split the Difference, an amazing book on negotiation and bargaining. But so you start, even with terrorists having people and kids as hostages, you start back by the problem, and you get along with them to find a solution. You start by asking questions. Remember, like, understand before being understood. So you hear that in that, nonviolent communication, all that kind of thing. But basically, just even facilitation, sometimes just mention it. Don't say, hey, I don't want to sound blunt, because that's actually untrue. You know you will, or you may. And that puts all the pressure on the other one, because the other one can say, actually, I think you're blunt, but I can't say it, because now I look like it's kind of passive-aggressive. No, you just say, may I be blunt, or I think I'm going to sound blunt, and you don't say but, as a pause, so they're prepared, and then say what you have to say. Most of the time, actually, they say, no, that's okay, yeah, no, that wasn't so okay. But just tell them, just prepare them. Sometimes it's enough. But basically, the thing is, get people with your thinking. Never go underground and like. If you give the solution without having agreed with them on the problem, humanly, people want to understand what's going on, because like you, they want to know fact and analysis and so on. And that requires time. Timing, okay. So, never go underground. Now, wait for an explicit yes, right? Silence is a no. Boils down to the question, there's so many battles you can fight. So what are you doing here? Because this all requires preparation and energy and a certain motivation. So if you want to change everything, you're going to face frustration. And what I heard is you got to pick your battle. And then, we also, I think all these guys suck at that, but they're on the, learn to enjoy the successes you had. That will avoid you a lot of frustration, because you did have some success. But they kind of forget all the time. But the one point is, if you respect your integrity principle, there's a point where you're going to quit. Because if you really think that this should be better like this for this outcome, and this should be better like this for this outcome, and it should be, are you ready, if it doesn't change, are you ready to cope with that? So there's a moment you won't have the energy. And so that's why the people say, you got to be okay with the fact that you have a point. There's a trigger, there's a level when you got to quit if you have too many battles. Now, when I say what's your position, because I get back to these people frustrated at the beer, you know? There's two things, and I learned it from my first job, actually. So it resonated a lot. If you're the kind of performance seeker, you want to think to be better, so that's why you go on these battles. You keep thinking, how can we do better? And that's important for you. You're here to learn, of course. You're here to progress. You want to see value and bring value. But at the same time, you're dependent on the situation. Sometimes it's not financial, because when you're a developer, usually it's an okay job paid in a society. But sometimes it's affective dependency. I know that for my first company, actually, I realized I like my colleagues. I like to be there. But I was so pissed because what we were doing was complete nonsense. But until you realize that actually, okay, my point is I stay here because I like these guys. I like working here. Okay. So you can only have one motivation. But if you have the two, if you're dependent but your motivation is unfulfilled, your performance motivation, then you're going to spin into frustration and cynicism. So you got to know where you are, and you got to be ready to make a choice if you hear about performance and not about a form of dependency. First, self-help. Oh my God. Detect your cynical spiral. If you start to say a lot of never, always, on every company it's like that, or they and I and we, you're in a spin. You're in a spin. This is not reasonable, factual thing. You're in a spin. How to help yourself, second part, you can take a picture. Self-therapy. You write to yourself So there's a discussion between the writing part of you and the thinking part, and you ask yourself, why was I angry or anguished? Where was I when I did this? With whom? What was I talking about? What was I doing? And just by having that dialogue, you're becoming better. That was a quick one. But I mean, at some point, if you're already in a frustration point, you've got to get out of that before having all this beautiful advice that you had from these influent people. Okay. So here's the point at the end. What they tell me is they're influent because they chose to. That was not what they were talking about, but they try to be good, cultivate experience, have a lot of integrity in their mind and intransigence in their thinking. They work their logic and their rational. They work about how to work with other people, and basically they try to learn all the time. But what they get from there, the one single advice is, it's a career choice. Thank you. Any questions, points you want to dig in or something? It's very compressed, so there's a lot of doors and I kept shut and a lot of doors and I just barely opened. But yeah. Any questions? Okay, I just want to know if one of these situations is related to something you personally lived through, like a personal experience, a frustration. Yeah, okay, I want to see your hands. Please be with me here. Okay, turn around and look. Now is the second time to raise your hand. Okay, that means you're not alone first. And remember when I said at the beginning, it's okay to talk about it. It's part of our job. It's not only about whether this framework is better than this native framework, right? It's part of the job. And that's really what I wanted to get. Okay. Last chance. Okay, I guess we're ready. Thank you.
Thank you.